ready to roll. I call this regular meeting of the Westchester County Board of Legislators to order. If we can all please rise. As Legislator Myers leads us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, give us the strength, courage, and wisdom to always act in the best interest of the people of Westchester while we're in this chamber. Let us keep in mind that every decision that we make impacts upon the life, health, and safety of all our great county residents. Amen. Madam Clerk.
Majority Leader Harcum.
Here.
Minority Leader Mazzano. Here. Ms. Borgia.
Here.
Mr. Burrows. Here. Mr. Gelfarb.
Here.
Mr. Kaplowitz.
Present.
Ms. Marcotte. Here. Ms. Myers. Here. Ms. Perez. Here. Mr. Ryan. Here. Ms. Shimsky.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Spreckman. Mr. Testa.
Here.
Ms. Williams. Here. Mr. Williams. Mr. Chairman.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, would move the consent agenda with no suggested revisions.
Mr. Mazzano. Thank you, Mr. Mazzano. Ms. Shimsky.
I'm fine with that too, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We are on consent. Mr. Harcum, minutes approval.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would move the meeting minutes of the Tuesday, November 13th meeting that was held at 7 o'clock.
Members without objection, so ordered.
Point of order.
Mr. Mazzano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 2 of our agenda, under unfinished business, is that item that we had a long debate about last meeting at 2 different points of our meeting. I was wondering what is the effect of what just happened on that item?
There's nothing. We get to it at unfinished business, Mr. Mason.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know if that was being included.
No, it would not. It is unfinished business. It is not in the consent agenda. It's an item on unfinished business that we will get to in the regular order business after the public hearings. Madam Clerk, public comment.
Each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes. I'll call the names of the speakers and ask that you please come down the aisle to my left and wait behind the black ropes. Thomas Craddy, Gabriela Alves, Judith Sage, Elliot Chung, Vicia De Leon, Regina Riley, Murray Bowden, Stephen Maddie, Edmund Riley. And the first speaker is Thomas Craddy.
I'm speaking to you this evening regarding on behalf of Ferncliff Manor, and my name is Tom Craddy, and I have been a Yonkers resident for 26 years. I'm a board member for the not-for-profit Ferncliff Manor, Inc., and have followed the plight of Sale at Ferncliff Manor, seeking to secure a new campus for the children with severe developmental disabilities for a long time now. The location of the Greenberg site, known to many as the West Help site, at the Knollwood entrance of Westchester Community College, is an ideal location for Ferncliff Manor. I wish to address the lease that County Executive Rob Astorino sent down. There is a section of state law that states that the county board cannot take up legislation twice in the same session. However, if the proposed lease were resubmitted with minor changes, it would be considered a new matter up for vote. Because there was not a yes or no vote on the substance of the lease, the county board has not yet made a determination on the matter. We would like to urge a new vote either on West Help or on Site D. Chairman Jenkins promised a vote on Site D by the end of the year. If you cannot deliver, then you should allow a vote on West Help. You should not leave Ferncliff in limbo, which it currently has been now for an extended period of time. So many are dependent on this vote, the children, the staff, the many residents of Westchester, that we need to make a decision to finalize a vote that will help Ferncliff in a positive manner. Thank you for your time. I have a few relevant observations that I'd like to add to my comments. And the first, I'd like to point out that the Greenburgh Town Board, in their 2013 budget press release that was released on Wednesday of last week, following the news, there were 3.3% increase in layoffs of 6 employees. They wrote, the town has been receiving a $1.2 million a year from the county West Help in revenue. Westchester County terminated the contract with West Help at the end of September, causing the town to lose the revenue. We are negotiating but have not yet finalized a contract with Ferncliff, an organization that provides services to the developmentally disabled. We won't be able to count on this significant revenue until the approvals are granted, which could take us into 2013. With the current business model of Ferncliff Manor, they will deliver to the town of Greenburgh an approved construction budget as well as a guaranteed revenue stream. Currently, there are 260 local jobs resting on your decision to approve the West Help or the Site D. And with the new site, Ferncliff plans to add an additional 40 jobs for a total of 300 jobs that we're talking about. It is interesting to note that many of Ferncliff Manor's children are placing through DSS, and the West Help site charter was to provide services to homeless families. Both support the same mission. We would like you to do the right thing, and we would like you to support Ferncliff Manor on the West Help or the Site D locations. Thank you.
Gabriela Alves.
Good evening. My name is Gabriela Alves, and I'm the Director of Support Service at SAIL Ferncliff Manor. I have been employed at Ferncliff Manor since 1970. Many of you have visited our facility. I do not have to remind you of the conditions and lack of space that we have. I'm asking you to revisit Ferncliff Manor, but this time, not as a Democrat, but as a Republican. As a parent, as a grandparent, or a family member who is looking for placement for their special child. I'm aware that the community has many needs. We appreciate the efforts you have made in trying to find other sites. But as you know, time is a luxury we do not have. It does not matter how often we paint those walls, replace the curtains, or shine the floors. It's still an old building. I have visited the West Health site, and to this day, I cannot understand why that space is not being used. It's a shame. It would be wonderful for us. We could do wonderful things with that building. Obtaining this building would benefit our children, their families. It would save jobs. It would create more jobs, and would bring revenue to the town of the residents of Greenburgh. It's difficult enough to have to for someone to have to place your child in the care of others. But if you have and are forced to place them far away from home, that makes it very painful. And that's what will happen if Ferncliff is not given the option, the lease of the West Help. We're asking you to please consider that decision. Working at Ferncliff for 42 years has given me the opportunity to help many families and their children in many ways. While they have taught me a lot, I also believe that I have made a difference. I'm asking you tonight, make a difference. Take a vote. Do something. Consider West Help as the future home for SAIL Ferncliff Manor. Thank you, and God bless you on your decision.
Judith Sage.
Good evening. I am SPO Judith Sage. I'm currently employed as a supervisor at the Westchester County Department of Probation. I want to thank the board for the support and respect they have always shown Westchester County probation officers through the years. I am proud to say that I've had the opportunity to work at a probation department which is known as one of the most innovative and accomplished community correction agencies in the nation. It has been approximately 25 years since I was sworn in as a probation officer. During those years, I have seen close up how well things worked when we were adequately funded and how things did not work when we were not adequately funded. During the course of my career, I've seen layoffs and cutbacks end up costing Westchester County taxpayers a lot more money than short-term promised savings. When community corrections is done very well, as is the case in Westchester County, we are all safer and we are all saved money. But I appear here tonight not as a probation personnel, but as a Westchester County resident, taxpayer, and a regular voter, and having turned 65 this year as a senior citizen, someone who plans to retire in a little more than a year. I know you have heard from my colleagues that it costs approximately $1,700 per year to supervise a probationer in the community and approximately $35,000 per year to incarcerate someone for 1 year at the Westchester County Jail. But think about it. When we think someone's about to violate or break or commit a crime, we step up our supervision. We do more home visits, more field visits. But just think about it. If, for example, 500 individuals sentenced to probation potentially end up violating probation because they were less closely supervised, then think about the difference in cost. It could cost approximately $17.5 million to incarcerate those 500 potential probation violators for 1 year at the Westchester County Jail. We at Westchester County Probation supervise probationers very closely. So closely that probationers often ask to move in with relatives in the Bronx to avoid our very close scrutiny and supervision. With less staff, we will still make the safety and well-being of Westchester County residents our priority, as we always have. We can promise you that. But with community safety in mind, if those probationers who cannot be seen as frequently violate probation, we will file the violations, and many more probationers will end up incarcerated. Reducing probation staff always ends up costing taxpayers money. It never saves money. Thank you very much.
Elliot Chung.
Good evening, legislators. My name is Elliot Chung, and I'm a probation officer assigned to the Westchester County Probation Department's Bureau of Family Justice. I'd like to take this opportunity to read a letter written by Leo Diluski, a Peekskill police officer and the president of the Westchester County Youth Officers Association. Police Officer Diluski planned on being here tonight. However, he was called last minute, called into work, and he's currently in the county jailhouse working a prisoner transport detail. Just briefly about the Youth Officers Association. The Youth Officers Association consists of local police agencies in Westchester County. It provides a medium for law enforcement officers who work with juveniles, a place to discuss trends and issues relating to the youth of Westchester County. And I believe a letter has been distributed to everybody, to all the legislators. Dear Westchester County legislators, we are writing to urge you to continue your steadfast support in ensuring the public safety of residents of Westchester County. As currently proposed by the county executive, the 2013 operating budget eliminates at least 10 probation officer positions within the Westchester County Probation Department. The Westchester County Youth Officers Association has witnessed firsthand the outstanding track record of the Westchester Department of Probation in successfully dealing with troubled youth and diverting them from further interaction within the criminal justice system. Through continued collaboration between the probation department and local agencies, we are seeing positive results with fewer repeat offenders requiring regular police intervention. By utilizing various probation department initiatives such as PINS, diversion, a person in need of supervision, youth can be referred to the probation department where probation officers can follow up and monitor the progress of the youth and their family without the intervention of the courts. This is not only beneficial to the outcome of the youth, research has shown that limited interaction within the criminal justice system increases the likelihood that the young person will develop into a successful and productive citizen. It also saves money and reduces court costs. By reducing the number of required follow-up contacts that police officers have with young people and their families, this allows police officers to respond to other emergencies, thus ensuring a higher level of public safety. It also provides the youth and their family additional support through the work and follow-up of the probation officer. Programs such as PINS Diversion, as well as other probation department initiatives, are vital to the health and safety of Westchester County. The Westchester County Youth Officers Association respectfully urges you to restore funding for the 10 probation officer positions. Thank you for your assistance in this matter. Signed, Leo Diluski, President. Thank you.
Vecchia De Leon.
Good evening. My name is Vatisha DeLeon, and I'm a proud probation officer for the Westchester County Department of Probation. I, like some of my fellow colleagues who were hired in January 2011, are slated for layoff. In this short time as a probation officer, I have seen lives change through the supervision and services we provide to offenders. We keep communities safer. I have firsthand knowledge of the difference we make in people's lives. From seeing a full-blown heroin addict turn his life around, obtain his GED, find a full-time job, and open a bank account, to a teen runaway who has been in foster care from the age of 5, obtain her GED, a full-time job, and enter college. It may not seem like much to most, but to these probationers and to us, it's everything. These simple accomplishments keep criminals off the streets and our community safer. Probation officers wear many hats. Yes, we are peace and law enforcement officers. We are trained in the use of firearms, taser, defensive tactics, search and seizure, and OC. We are also counselors, teachers, encouragers, and motivators. Whatever the probationer needs us to be to help them on their journey to become law-abiding citizens, that is what we are. We supervise criminals who live in our communities, holding them accountable for their actions. Yes, we help keep the peace, but we also bring down the hammer after all other methods have been exhausted to facilitate the transfer of high-risk individuals to a higher level of supervision, whether that is long-term inpatient rehabilitation, jail, or prison. Many illegal weapons, firearms, drugs, and contraband have been confiscated by probation officers in our division offices or while conducting home visits. And these offenders were either charged with a new offense or returned to court. These visits are imperative for a safer community. Who else would go into these homes and provide these preventive measures? Our DWI units keep alcoholics out of cars. Our sex offender unit keeps pedophiles out of parks and off school sidewalks. Our domestic violence unit keeps families safe, and our juvenile delinquent and PINS diversion program keep our young people alive and out of placement, which has saved the county millions of dollars each year. Probation is vital to our community safety. Help us to continue making life-changing differences that keep our community safer. Please, as you did last year, restore the probation position slated for layoffs. The community cannot afford to lose probation officers. Thank you.
Regina Riley.
My name is Regina Riley. I'm from the 9th Legislative District. $465 million of your tax money, and a tenth of that, or approximately $50 million of your tax money right here in New York State from the federal government goes to subsidize Planned Parenthood. But don't worry, it's not used for surgical abortions. Before breathing an aggregate sigh of relief, think of what the money is used for. Almost $500 million is used to promote sexual promiscuity under the guise of a safety net to prevent pregnancy if abstinence is forsaken. Only under the Malthusian eugenics does Planned Parenthood's implementation of this anti-person thinking called pregnancy a disease. Imagine a girl who has a fetal child growing within her is seen as a disease statistic. She is diseased because her reproductive tract is housing the disease, also known as an embryonic child. Can atheistic humanism be more inhuman to a mother and the baby? That federal tax subsidy also is used by Planned Parenthood to go into public schools to teach middle schools and high school students how to put on a condom that supposedly reduces AIDS, but has no effect on chlamydia, syphilis, gonorrhea, listeria, hepatitis B and C, or human papillomavirus. They press kids to get the Gardasil 3-shot vaccine, which in New York City schools is law, thanks to Christine Quinn and Bloomberg, unless the parents opt out. High schoolers as young as 13 in this scenario are vaccinated with this drug that has caused severe illness and death to girls from ages 9 to 17. It also guards against only 70% of the human papillomaviruses. Russian roulette, anyone? It's $450 for the vaccines. The federal slush fund for Planned Parenthood does not pay for mammograms. Repeat, does not pay for mammograms, and Planned Parenthood does not do mammograms. It does implant intrauterine apparatus such as Mirena, and sells long-acting contraceptives like Seasonique, which is taken only every 3 months, and the old standby contraceptives, which are daily taken. They're all abortifacient. The money is also used to sterilize a man and a woman. It's done much in the same way one sterilizes a dog or a cat. This is progress. God is denied 3 times at the Democratic National Convention. $500 million of public funds to Planned Parenthood denies the immortality of the human spirit and effectively says we're merely animals and nothing else.
Murray Bowden.
Good evening. My name is Murray Bowden. I'm here to put into the public record the information that the Westchester County traffic engineer is ignoring various sections of the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which creates a public hazard. Specifically, some of the lines that he uses are improper. There is a record of it in his file, and there are records of those emails in many places. If the county fails on prior notice to correct these lines, the county is creating a liability where they may be sued. This morning, I was at the MTA at the Bridges and Tunnels Committee, and I gave them the same information. Tomorrow morning, I will be at the New Jersey Turnpike and put into the public record the same information. Wednesday morning, I will be at the MTA the board meeting and put the same information in a public record. It is time the law was followed. I'm not here to fight with you. I'm here to let you know that if you permit the traffic engineer to continue putting in improper lines, one of these days, somebody's going to sue somebody. I will continue to create a public record so that there is prior notice in many, many places. When somebody Googles me, all of this information is going to come up. There have been copies. Some of you have seen them. They're in a lot of files. And some years ago, I was warned by the chief of police not to do something foolish because I could be sued. It was a good lesson. It's my job today to warn you that if you don't correct this situation, you're creating a liability where the county will be sued for millions of dollars. Thank you.
Stephen Mady.
Mr. Chairman, members of the County Board of Legislators, my name is Stephen Bidet. I'm the Director of Education at Sale at Ferncliff Manor. I thank you again for allowing me to speak to you this evening. I'm here again to advocate for Ferncliff on behalf of the use of the West Help location. As many of you know, we are given that very special task of educating children with special needs, something that I take very near and dear to my heart. As many of you know, I advocate outside of Sale at Ferncliff for the needs of this very wonderful population. In trying to educate these children, we're trying to prepare them for their eventual return to the community-based programs that are in Westchester County, where they will live in group homes in settings that will mirror those that many of our children have grown up in, where they will have single bedrooms, etc. Unfortunately, right now at Ferncliff, as you may or may not know, we have our children living dormitory style, and the facilities don't permit themselves to allow us to be able to teach them the types of skills that will make them productive members of society. When I looked at West Help the very first time, I, of course, was excited about it. I had been back there more recently to take a look at it with members of the State Department of Education, and for the first time got to look at the residences. And I ask all of you, how many of you have actually gone and visited the residents there at this site and have seen at this point the fact that they are riddled with both mold and mildew. In fact, one of our state ed people had to leave the site because she was having difficulty breathing. That alone will cost us, I would imagine, as taxpayers, a lot of money to rehab. One of the major concerns was that we would be tearing down buildings, and we really wouldn't be tearing down. We would be replacing buildings that I believe at this point are probably not habitable by anybody without some major renovations. So my thought would be, it's almost a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you have us go in there, renovate the place, rehab the place, make it an appropriate place for children with special needs to be able to learn and live and be productive members of society once they leave us. One of the intangibles that we don't even talk about the West Help site is that the fact that it's in very close proximity to the grounds of the community college. They have programs there in special needs, they have programs in nursing. The kids that they're educating there could come down to our facility and be trained working with our children. So again, I would ask you, please relook at the West Help site. It really is a wonderful site for our children. It would be a wonderful site for us to be in. Quite frankly, as far as affordable housing is concerned, Greenberg has met from what I understand, they have met their needs as far as affordable housing. This will not do anything to address the needs of that federal mandate coming down to the county. So again, I thank you. For those of you who have not been able to come and visit us, we again invite you to come see us and see the conditions that we work within. Thank you.
Ed Riley.
My name is Ed Riley. I'm from Croton. This is the 30-some-odd time I've asked the abortion clique in the Community Services Committee of Borgia, Shemsky, Perez, Myers, and I forget the chairman's name, plus Harkham, to investigate how Planned Parenthood has conducted business in Westchester County. We know how they conduct business in Westchester County. We know how they conduct business throughout the United States. We told you about lawsuits and for $500 million, $200 million against Planned Parenthood in Indiana, Ohio, Obama land, Chicago, where there isn't one Republican on the city council. It must be a fix. The Republicans must have been after women in Chicago. That's what it is. It must be a fix. The Republicans did it in Chicago. Not one Republican on the city council. They're going after Planned Parenthood in Chicago. How did that happen? Texas, 65,000 cases of Medicaid fraud by abortion. And here we go, Iowa. Susan Thayer, this is great, it's always insiders. Susan Thayer, a 17-year employee of Planned Parenthood. Now, she wasn't a janitor, and she wasn't the door lady. She was the director of the Storm Lake Clinic and the Lamore's Clinic, and she charges that Planned Parenthood between 2002 and 2009 filed nearly 500,000 false claims. I believe that's 500,000 false claims, and received nearly $28 million from the Medicaid system in bilking the government, both the state of Iowa and the federal government. Thayer's complaint, this is a 17-year employee of Planned Parenthood, alleges Planned Parenthood's management, observing that at least 50% of female clients do not renew their original 3-month supply of birth control prescriptions, implemented a mandatory birth control distribution program called CMAIL. Prior to CMAIL, clients had been issued a 3-month supply of birth control pills. Clients were then required to return to Planned Parenthood clinic for a follow-up exam in order to be prescribed an additional 3-month supply. That was the old practice. They wanted to make some big-time money and fast. Planned Parenthood, in violation of standards of medical care, eliminated the follow-up exam. And by the way, Ms. Meyer, did you hear that again? Planned Parenthood does not do mammograms. Does not do mammograms anywhere in the United States. They're unqualified to do that. In violation of standards of Medicare, eliminated this follow-up exam and mailed 1 year's supply of birth control pills. A year's supply. How many pills is that? To clients who had only been seen once at a Planned Parenthood clinic. The result was that thousands of unrequested, unused birth control pills were mailed to clients, often without their knowledge and consent, and then billed to Medicaid. In many cases, Planned Parenthood, it can't be 3 minutes yet, sir.
It is.
I'll finish this and I'll be out of here.
Thank you.
Here's the summation of it. Planned Parenthood would buy the pills for $2.98 and then would sell them, charge the government $28.10. I believe that's 1,000% markup. The bills that were returned to Planned Parenthood because people had moved and changed their addresses were sold to other people, and they were billed to the government also. This is the way this place operates. Why? Because the Democratic Party in this legislature and every legislature in the United States covers up for these criminals. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have no other cards.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Harcum, although our clock is saying that it's 11:30, I believe we're at the time of the prescribed public hearings, and just in case...
I believe it is, Mr. Chair. Thank you. At this time, I would move to suspend our normal course of business. It is 7:43, so we're okay. For the purpose of conducting 4 public hearings.
Madam Clerk.
Notice of tonight's hearings were published in the Journal News. I have proof of publication, which is available for inspection in my office. Each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes. First public hearing is from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations on the proposed increase and improvement of facilities for the county water districts as set forth in the district report dated April 12, 2012. Mr. Chairman, I have no cards.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Harcum.
I move to close this public hearing.
On the motion of Mr. Harcum, this public hearing is now closed. Madam Clerk.
Public hearing number 2 is from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations on the proposal to amend the 2004 District Report of Refuse Disposal District Number 1 in the County of Westchester to authorize the reallocation of approved expenditures for improvements in accordance with the report of the Solid Waste Agency dated March 12, 2012. Mr. Chairman, I have no cards.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move to close this public hearing.
On your motion, Mr. Harcum, this public hearing is now closed. Madam Clerk.
Public hearing number 3 is from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations on the proposed modification to the Sawmill Valley Sanitary Sewer District by the removal of 3 properties consisting of 4 tax parcels, 26 Hardscrabble Hill Road, 790 Hardscrabble Road, and 494 Chappaqua Road in the town of Mount Pleasant. Mr. Chairman, I have no cards.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would move to close this public hearing.
On Mr. Harcum's motion, this public hearing is now closed.
Public hearing number 4 is from the Committees on Committees on Government Operations and Legislation. A public hearing pursuant to Section 209.141 of the laws of Westchester County on Local Law Intro 5491-2012 entitled "The Local Law Amending Chapter 173 of the Laws of Westchester County in regard to contracts to render police service to other municipalities." I have 1 card, Murray Bowden.
Hey, Murray.
Hi, Ken. Hi, everybody. This one's rather relaxed. One of the things that I often have to deal with is whether or not, when I present an issue, anybody pays any attention. Yes, you do. Small things, but somebody pays attention. I tried to get the agenda on the internet this afternoon. It wasn't there, or I would have more information about this particular subject. It's important because police services have been fragmented, and my guess is that this is making it possible for better coordination and less duplication of services. All right? Good guess? So we're moving in the right direction. I have no objection to spending money properly. I do have objection to spending it improperly. Combining various services for better efficiency and public safety is important, and I support that. You had some M&Ms. You have any more? Because I see you have some. I want to wish you all a very happy holiday, and in case I don't see you before New Year's, good New Year's.
Mr. Chairman, I have no other cards.
Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, would move to close this public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Harcum. On the motion of Mr. Harcum, this public hearing is now closed. Madam Clerk, as we return to the regular order of business.
Under unfinished business, we have 1 item which appeared on the November 13, 2012 agenda, was severed and held over, and appears here for informational purposes only.
Mr. Mazzano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We would like to, the Republican caucus would like to review our request that this matter be sent to a committee of the board so that it could be properly reviewed.
Thank you, Mr. Mazzano. What we did in the time since it was overed was review the legislation as you requested. The legislation is exactly the same piece of legislation that was submitted to the board, which is why it is in the notices and petitions part of the agenda. Certainly, the administration had opportunity through our discussions, Mr. Mazzano, and leadership discussions, and various folks to send down a modified piece of legislation as was discussed, and that was not what we were presented. It appeared as a special item in the order of business as appropriate because it came from the county executive and pursuant to our rules. Any communication received by the county executive within 2.5 hours of the meeting does appear on the agenda as a special item. It is a notice because it was not new legislation. So certainly we have an opportunity to deal with that as we move forward, and it's not debatable. Madam Clerk, next order.
Under standing committees, item 5535 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations is an environmental resolution declaring there will be no significant adverse impact on the environment from the construction of this project.
Ms. Myers.
Thank you very much. I would like to, if I may, discuss this item along with number 2, 3, and 4, because they all have to do with the same thing, which is actually the treatment of New York City's water as per a consent order. New York City fought for many years against having to filter the drinking water that's located in Westchester County and that they own. And what they have arrived at instead is an ability to treat it with ultraviolet light, as opposed to building a large filtration plant. However, the ultraviolet light plant requires building, and this would provide for, there are 5 items here that would allow Westchester County to hook up basically with the New York City Catskill, Delaware UV treatment facility in the town of Mount Pleasant. And therefore, these 5 items actually are very far-reaching. They cover a large part of Westchester County and Westchester County's drinking water that we purchase from New York City. The first item is a public hearing, which was set for this evening, and we had. The second item is an environmental resolution, which you see here as number 1, that says there is no significant adverse impact on the environment from this project. The next one is the actual county capital budget appropriation for this project. The third one is a $2.3 million bond that would allow for us to be able to hook into this project. And the last one is an agreement to accept property that is necessary for the building of the actual linkage connecting to 2 pipes between this facility and Mount Pleasant that would take the pipeline actually under Route 100C. This has been thoroughly vetted. It has been in negotiations actually for years. It impacts County Water District number 1, which covers Mount Vernon, White Plains, Yonkers, and the village of Scarsdale. It covers County Water District number 3, which is comprised of all the county-owned property at Grasslands and Westchester Community College. It allows for Westchester Joint Waterworks to hook up to provide the residents in the town of Mamaroneck, village of Mamaroneck, and the town village of Harrison to access this facility, along with United Water of Westchester, which purchases water for money from Westchester Joint Waterworks and covers Port Chester, Rye, and Rybrook. The villages of Sleepy Hollow, Tarrytown, and Briarcliff Manor, and literally this covers a great deal of our water drinking population, and does meet all of the requirements for this consent order. I will at this point turn it back over to Legislator Borgia, who passed this also out of government operations.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Government Operations did have an opportunity to review all of the items associated with this project. As Legislator Myers said, it is an extensive project. It provides for the funding, design, construction, management, and construction of the distribution chamber. It does impact, as Legislator Myers said, a great portion of Westchester County, and in fact, the one municipality that she did not mention is that Mount Pleasant also has an opt-in to the project as long as the DEP approves their program to do so. We did have an opportunity to ask a great deal of questions about the implementation, and Government Operations Committee felt that this was a good project for the county to move forward on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Members, we are on discussion on items 1, ID 5535, item 2, 5536, item 3, 5537, and item 4, 5538. Members on these items. Mr. Kapowitz.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in support of these 4 items, and while it's a quiet night, do not be deceived. These are perhaps the 4 most important items that we're taking up in this entire session, with a budget perhaps even included, because as it was very, very aptly described, by the two chairs of the committees. This is a very far-reaching agreement that goes right to the heart of what in many ways we as a county legislature involved ourselves with, which is water and some very critical health and safety related issues. It also goes very closely to, where it's attached very much to dollars, expense. And by piggybacking upon the ultraviolet opportunity, that will create an outlet for us to save tens of millions of dollars, and we've seen numbers that are staggering. And as described in Water Districts number 1 and District number 3, particularly number 1, you look to the population centers of this county, White Plains and Yonkers, you look to communities along the Sound, as well as some of the communities along the Hudson River. You can see how geographically wide range the reach is of these particular items. So for every reason, it's important to do it. But I also will put on the record, and as a reminder for those who now and for the future, we're able to refer back to both those aforementioned, both those who are directly involved and those tangentially involved. There is a major proviso here that the DEP puts in this entire agreement, not only in the 4 before us, but the significant work still to come, because this is simply just a proverbial drop in the bucket, if you will, regarding the ultraviolet project, that moving forward, there needs to be a parallel and a partner legislative package that deals with additions to the Sawmill Sanitary Sewer District for purposes of furthering and fostering clean drinking water for all of us in the mentioned areas and the unmentioned areas, both in the county and outside, and that the additions of those Sawmill Sanitary Sewer District households needs to go forward. That is a proviso that was put in there, and I thank and congratulate this board for step 1 of that, but step 2 will come in tandem with future action and request for dollars as well as intermunicipal agreement approvals, and that will necessitate the legislating and basically the appropriating of dollars from east of Hudson and perhaps other sources that will provide for the final kumbaya to this legislative package. So there is a lot more work to come, but I stand up and thank the chairs of the committees and the legislators for the foresight and the administration for the opportunity to piggyback, recognize health and safety, but also, again, tens of millions of dollars of potential savings are not drop in the bucket. Those are real dollars, and in tough times, we need to find every one of those opportunities to save those kind of dollars.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplitz. Other members on this item? As Mr. Kaplitz just pointed out, I believe that this is the beginning of this particular project. Does this include that transport that needed to be done for the moving of the water uphill, I guess, on the Kensico? It does not. And I believe that, Mr. Kaplitz, if you could just give everyone for record purposes, I know that's a huge number, all right, that this particular piece is part of, if you recall.
Through with the permission of the chairs, of course, of the respective committees, you're looking at, again, tens of millions of dollars of investment into the hundreds of millions that relates to subsequent investments required to be able to effectuate, be able to piggyback the ultraviolet treatment and yet be able to distribute those literally the water out to the various geographies through Kensico. I mean, there's work that this board's going to need to do through an analysis as to which, remember it was phased, there were different projects, different phases. This is, again, just the beginning of it, but as the Commissioner has told us and continues to tell us, this is an investment we're going to need to make because clean water at the federal level necessitates this taking place. A lot of people are going to not be sick because of this, but it's going to require some significant dollars, and yet by doing it in tandem with DEP, and since, as the Chair indicated, they're already under court order to move in one of these directions, oxygenation or ultraviolet. They've already chosen the ultraviolet method. We will be able to piggyback upon that method, and we're going to have a lot of maps and discussions and dollars being thrown around, and that's going to come shortly. But again, there are a lot of pieces to this, and we need to all stick together to recognize that dollars and safety are what's at stake.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplitz. Madam Clerk, a long roll call vote.
Mr. Harcum.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Yes. Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Yes. Mr. Gelfard. Aye. Mr. Kaplowitz. Aye. Ms. Marcotte. Aye. Ms. Myers.
Yes. Ms.
Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Sorry. Ms. Shimsky?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Spreckman? Mr. Testa? Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Williams? Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Approved 17-0. Item 5536 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations, an act amending the 2012 County Capital Budget Appropriation for Capital Project WD-001 Eastview Distribution Chamber.
Ms. Myers?
Yes, as discussed.
And so move.
So moved.
Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 5537 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations, a bond act authorizing the issuance of $2,300,000 in bonds of the county, $2,300,000 in bonds of the county to finance capital project WD-001 Eastview Distribution Chamber.
Ms. Myers?
Yes, this is the $2.3 million to design and for the design and construction management bond requested now in 2012, and this will take approximately 9 months. We have been told that the design RFP is currently out on the street and will be awarded when this bonding is approved. So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers, and that would be obviously after the estoppel period of 20 days. Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 5538 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations, an act authorizing the County of Westchester to enter into any necessary agreements in furtherance hereof and to accept grants to the county of any and all necessary property rights.
Ms. Myers?
Yes, this is the our land around where we may need to enter into these agreements as discussed. So moved.
Thank you. As previously discussed and so moved, members, unless there's objection, we'll take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Point of order?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question. As I look over tonight's agenda, I noticed that the veto message relating to our vote at our prior meeting, that I saw emails earlier today indicating that that veto message came to the board about 3:30 today. That is before the 4:30 deadline for items from the county executive's office to appear on our agenda. And I do not see that veto from the county executive anywhere on our board's agenda tonight, and I was just curious why that was.
Mr. Bezano, my understanding, Madam Clerk.
It was just sent down to us this afternoon. There's no rule that I'm aware of that it has to go on the agenda. It was sent out as a notification to everyone.
That it would be correct, Mr. Mazzano. It did come down. It did not. We did not receive it until about 5 minutes if I was when I was made aware of it. All members did receive copies of that from the clerk, from Ms. Vandenberg, and that would be, I would understand, 4:45, 5 o'clock in that time frame, and it will appear on our next order of our next meeting agenda.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I would submit that Rule 12 of our board, which reads, communication from county executive, any communication, recommendation, or other matter received from the county executive with a message requesting immediate consideration and filed with the clerk of the board no less than 2.5 hours before the regular meeting shall be placed upon the calendar for such meeting as a special item of business, and copies shall be provided for the chairman of the board, the majority leader, and minority leader. I would have thought that would have fell in that. I guess you're saying that that's you have a different view?
Mr. Mazzano, the cover letter for the county executive, the one that you're referring to in Rule 12, says that it has to be a letter requesting immediate consideration. So he did not request immediate consideration of his veto message to the board. And he would have had to have a copy that was sent to you as the minority leader, Mr. Harcum, and myself, which was not done in this particular case. So this is not that kind of item. It is really a notice. It would actually appear in our next meeting as a notice and petition from the county executive letting the members know on the public record exactly what happened. So, but thank you for, for the question. Yeah. And with the question, the clerk was also suggesting, because it's not a new item, it would not have been submitted through Minute Track. That's why it comes down as a piece of paper from the county executive. as late as he can do it, basically. We certainly could have had that prior to the Wednesday meeting, by the way, right? The Wednesday early deadline, I think we actually made it Tuesday, and I think we called the county executive's office to advise them if they had anything for the agenda. We certainly would take that early, as we were trying to make sure that all of the staff had an opportunity to be out early. So it is not a special item. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item 5573 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget Appropriations is an act pursuant to Article 5A of the New York State County Law to amend the district report dated March 4, 2004 for Refuse Disposal District Number 1 to authorize the reallocation of approved expenditures among 4 refuse district projects.
Ms. Myers.
Yes. If I may, I'd like to take this and the next 3 items together. This is actually, as read by the clerk, this is actually a district report amendment. In a nutshell, because the amount of money that was approved in 2004 that went into the district report is to be modified. The amount of money was not all needed, so what the Department of Environmental Facilities, actually this is the Refuse Disposal District Number 1, has 2 other projects that they would like to put this towards. And all of this has to do with the Croton landfill and actually the gas to energy program, but there is piping in there that needs to be repaired in order to proceed with this. So what we're basically asking for, and this has gone through government operations as well as budget, is to decrease both the North County Material Recovery Facility as well as the Solid Waste Haulage Vehicles Phase 4 items. They're each to be decreased by $4.750 million. They were able to do this for less than that. And then to move this funding to move $4.320 million into the Croton landfill rehab for the gas to energy program, as well as moving $5.5 million into the Croton landfill station's pump station rehab program. So, however, this does require legislative approval, given that this report was filed in 2004. I will now turn this over to government operations.
Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Legislator Myers said, this is a request to reallocate some money that had been appropriated for another purpose. The Croton Landfill Gas to Energy Program, we actually had quite a lively discussion about this, which led us to desire that more programs such as this be implemented in Westchester County, because the Commissioner of DEP told us that the amount of energy that could be generated from this program is actually a sufficient amount, he believes, to actually run the Croton, site at the Croton landfill. Although the Croton landfill is actually an older landfill, and if we had done this sooner, there probably would have been more opportunities to actually generate energy from this. But it is a very interesting technology. As I said, the Croton landfill, there are some aged infrastructure things that needed to be rehabbed. Of course, a landfill, there's settling that happens, so that impacts how the operations of the landfill work. We did, as I said, we did have an opportunity to really thoroughly review this, and we felt that it was a good move for the county to move forward on this reallocation. So we stood in approval of these items. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Members, on these items, we are on discussion for items 5, 5573, item 6, ID 5572, and item 7, item 5571. Members on these items. All right, we're on 5573, item 5. Unless there's objection, members, we'll take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 5572 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations is a bond act authorizing the issuance of $100,000 in bonds of the county to finance capital project RD016, Croton Landfill Rehab and Gas to Energy Program.
Ms. Myers.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Members, unless there's objection, we'll take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 5571 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations, a bond act authorizing the issuance of $5,500,000 in bonds of the county to finance capital project RD075, Croton Landfill Station's Pump Station Rehab Program.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is an environmental resolution, as was just said, saying that by removing these sewer districts, these three properties from the sewer district in Mount Pleasant will not have any significant impact on the environment. I jumped ahead. My colleague asked me a question. Sorry. What are we on then? 17? So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Unless there's objection, members, we'll take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. Thank you so much. You've been here a long time today with all the budget meetings, Ms. Myers. You are absolutely excused, not a problem. Madam Clerk.
Approved 17-0. Item 5581 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations, a resolution determining there will be no significant impact on the environment from the removal of three properties consisting of 4 tax parcels from the Sawmill Valley Sanitary Sewer District.
Thank you. Mrs. Myers.
So moved. Now, because I just described this one. But this has to do with the removal of 3 properties that are on septic and wish to be removed from the sewer district. This item says that there's no negative environmental impacts, and if I may, the next item actually does the actual removals, 3 properties, 4 tax parcels in the town of Mount Pleasant, and we did hear from the Department of Environmental Facilities that there would be no chance that these parcels could be sewered in the near future or far future, either for that matter, and that while it does mean there will be a slight tax increase for the rest of the district, these parcels have been paying taxes on sewers that they don't have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Other members on this item? Members, we're on discussions for ID number 5581, which is item 8, item 9, which is 5582. Unless there's objections, members will take the prior long roll call vote for approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 5582 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations, an act to modify the Sawmill Valley Sanitary Sewer District by the removal of 3 properties consisting of 4 tax parcels located in the town of Mount Pleasant.
Ms. Myers.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 4894 from the Committee on Appointments is the appointment of Keith M. Bloomfield as an at-large member of the Westchester County Housing Opportunity Commission for a term to expire at the pleasure of the county executive.
Ms. Bishopsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Committee on Appointments interviewed Mr. Bloomfield at one of its regular Monday meetings. We found Mr. Bloomfield to be qualified and particularly intelligent and thoughtful, and we think he'll make a good addition to the board, and I therefore move his approval here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Shimsky. Members on this item? Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 5077 from the Committee on Appointments is the appointment of Harry Singh as a member of the Westchester County Fair Housing Board for a term to expire December 31st, 2013.
Ms. Shimsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. During his interview, Mr. Singh proved himself to be knowledgeable and very concerned about the subject matter, and we therefore also recommend his approval tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Shimsky. Members on this item? Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 5377 from the Committee on Appointments is the appointment of Dr. Susan Guiney as a member of the Westchester County Domestic Violence Council for a term to expire December 31st, 2013.
Ms. Shimsky.
Dr. Guiney's extensive experience as an educator and a school administrator will be very helpful to a group that's strategizing about ways to deal with the issue of domestic violence, and I therefore move her approval here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Shimsky. Members on this item? Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 5629 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget Appropriations, an act authorizing the county acting through the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Conservation to enter into a three-party agreement with New York State and the J Heritage Center, pursuant to which the county and New York State Parks will grant JHC a license to develop, manage, operate, maintain, secure, and administer the J property for park and recreational uses.
Ms. Myers.
Thank you very much. I don't know how many of you know this, but on the heavily trafficked Boston Post Road in the city of Rye, in the county of Westchester, lie 23 acres of absolute magnificence that is actually owned by Westchester County and New York State, and including a piece that is owned by the J Heritage Center, which is a not-for-profit educational corporation, and is represented here tonight by its illustrious executive director, who has, through a great deal of tireless patience and perseverance, been working to bring back this property to resemble in many, many ways what it looked like years and years and years ago when it actually was the birthplace of John Jay and the childhood home of John Jay, thus the name Jay Heritage Center. This represents what we're being asked to vote on here tonight, and has passed through both government operations and budget and appropriations, is actually an act that authorizes us to enter into a three-party agreement with New York State, with the J Heritage Center, and with Westchester County, through which the county and New York State Parks can grant the J Heritage Center a 10-year license to manage the property, with the oversight, obviously, still of Parks and Recreation in Westchester County, but to include the J Heritage Center as the management of this property. And so this tonight is an agreement that we're being asked to vote on that does provide for this management. And again, it was discussed in both budget appropriations and government operations. I will pass this over to government operations.
Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Legislator Myers said, this does seem to be a win-win-win situation for both the county, the site itself, and the J Heritage Center, as well as New York State Parks, who has 90% ownership in the property. The specifics of the proposal are that the J Heritage Center is going to, as they do their fundraising, restore specific elements of the site under the oversight and with the cooperation of the County Parks Department. We did hear from a member of the New York State Department of Parks they were very much in favor of this. One of the nice things about this partnership, public-private partnership, is that we are able to maintain and upgrade property that has historical significance and is used by members of residents of Westchester County, working, so we have oversight and have the opportunity to, we have to do approvals for any plan that the J Heritage Foundation comes to the county with, but it does also give them an opportunity to direct and enhance their fundraising by taking on specific projects. So in government operations, we did have the opportunity to talk to them a little bit about what their plans were, and they do have sort of a multi-year plan about the types of renovations and improvements they'd like to see on the property. And so we think it's a really a good example of a successful public-private partnership, and we think this is going to be a very good thing for Westchester County, and New York State seemed to indicate that they felt it would be in their best interest as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Other members? Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the administration for listening to our point of view when we over this item when it first came to us at the Board of Acquisition and Contract. We advised the administration prior to that that this board needed to approve this resolution or this act because it had to do with county property. It's so good to see that everyone was working together to pull this together as quickly as possible. Ms. Cleary, at her event, I know I made a point in mentioning at the J Heritage event that we would be moving this as quickly as possible. And as a matter of fact, Ms. Myers and I introduced legislation prior to even the administration pointing it forward to us to make sure that we could do that, because we understood that there was some significant time constraints for this particular piece of property and for the agreement with New York State and other arrangements that they had. But it shows once again that when we pick up the phone and we call the administration and it's something that they would like to do, they can make it work. So just like we were able to move this piece of legislation forward as quickly as we did through 2 committees in less than a month's period, we certainly could have been doing this on any other items as they've come forward to us. Unless there's objection, members, we will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered. Congratulations.
Approved 17-0. Item 5491 from the Committees on Legislation and Government Operations, a local law amending Chapter 173 of the laws of Westchester County in regards to contract to render police service to other municipalities.
Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The shared services among local governments has proven to be a very effective way to ensure the delivery of affordable, quality service, regardless of what service you're talking about. And we know that the state's general municipal law and Westchester County law allow the county to enter into IMAs with local governments, cities, towns, and villages for the shared implementation of services. We have an item before us tonight that is consistent with what has been a rather long-term aim or goal of the legislature here in Westchester, and that is to take action to improve service delivery in localities, making sure that we have adequate and sufficient services, but also trying to ensure that they're delivered at reasonable cost. The amendment before you is a proposed local law the proposed local law in front of you is an amendment to current county law. And what it does, it removes a provision in current county law that limits the scope of services in our county's agreements with localities for police services. Could be very specific services, could be services that are perhaps more general and more in line with the day-to-day needs. But police services generally is an area that we can enter into an IMA with the locality to provide. However, there is that limitation in scope, and this amendment would enable the county to enter into IMAs with our local government partners for full contract operations. Would do away with the limitation. It would be full contract obligations for police services should a locality decide that that's the road it would like to go down. It enables the county to enter into future police service arrangements, really to engage in some real smart centralization of services and realize the economy and efficiency that can be found in that. One of the important points, by contracting for police services, municipalities, local taxpayers will save money. 3 areas come to mind immediately: administrative costs and the costs of local patrol and capital costs. For the county, each such agreement that would be considered would be priced in a way where it would result in no cost to the Department of Public Safety. And we all know that as a larger department, Department of Public Safety is larger than many of the police departments in Westchester. As a larger department, we can more flexibly deploy our personnel and our equipment, and that's a further benefit to a locality because it instantly gets the benefits of that deployment should the situation locally warrant additional resources. You know, we have a special relationship with the state. We're the administrative arm for the state for service delivery. We have a special relationship with our local governments here in Westchester for service delivery. We have discussed the need to try to identify at the state level what barriers there are in the law, in the rules and regulations that limit our ability to be flexible and creative in how services are delivered. We also know that within our own body of law, there may be limitations that affect how we can help our local government partners, cities, towns, and villages. So this is a great move. It identifies language that stands as a bar to our being put in the position or our being able to take the position where we can provide a service with no loss of service delivery, certainly, content or quality or volume, but at the same time, do it in a way that is cost neutral to us and at a savings to local taxpayers. So it's a real pleasure for legislation to join with government operations tonight to bring this forward to the board, and obviously we ask for the board's approval.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Members on this item. Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The genesis of this local law actually started back in 2010 when I was a town supervisor of Ossining and negotiating with the county to contract for police services for the town of Ossining. One of the impediments that we had was this particular line in the Westchester County law that said that a municipality, although a municipality could contract for services, including police services, they couldn't contract out all of their police services. So it was identified at the time as a piece of legislation that would help deals similar to the deal made by the town of Ossining and similar to a deal that the town of Cortland has with Westchester County that would allow Westchester County to provide police services for a contract fee to municipalities. This is enabling legislation. It doesn't require any action on any municipality's part or on the county's part. It just enables these types of IMAs to go forward without this impediment as long as it is mutually beneficial to both the municipality and Westchester County. And when Commissioner Longworth came down to talk to the Government Operations Committee about this particular piece of legislation, he really stressed that there were certain conditions in place that needed to be met in order for this to be in order for these IMA agreements to be worthwhile for the county, which made government operations feel very secure about passing this local law because, again, it is not anything that mandates any action. It just provides the opportunity for these types of IMAs between the county and the local municipalities, which does usually in the 2 cases where there's been arrangements of this type made in Westchester has provided significant tax savings. I will say that in the budget that I prepared for 2011 for the town of Ossining. There was about a $600,000 savings, and for 2011 and projected for 2012 and projected, and for 2013, it's closer to $850 to possibly $1 million savings for the taxpayers of Westchester. A very, very, very important thing, which Chairman Ryan did mention, is that these deals get constructed so that there's no additional cost to Westchester County. The municipality picks up the cost to the county of providing these police services. But what's significant is that, and again, as detailed by Chairman Ryan, the opportunity to be part of a larger organization is what saves municipalities significant costs. It's very costly to run a small police department, whereas if you can purchase a portion of services such as dispatch, supervisory services, detective services, as part of a larger organization, and purchase them as you need them in a smaller municipality, that's another reason that the cost savings comes in. So I'm really hoping that my colleagues will join me in voting for this piece of legislation. I also really want to thank supporters along the way. It's, I'm sort of an optimist, so it's very, very exciting to me to have a piece of legislation that's supported by the minority leader, the majority leader, the chairman, the chair of public safety, my buddy in Cortland and Peekskill, Mr. Testa. I think this is a good piece of legislation that allows us to do government in partnership with our municipalities in a smarter, more cost-effective way. So I'm hoping that my colleagues will support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would like to congratulate and thank Legislator Borgia for her foresight and her experience in shepherding this piece of legislation forward. As she and Legislator Ryan have said, this is an opportunity for both municipalities and countywide taxpayers to save money, to share resources, to take advantage of the economies of scale that the county can afford. We all talk a lot about duplication of efforts and consolidation. I think at last count we were down to 41 police departments in Westchester County, and while we all are advocates and adherents of home rule, I think we'd be hard-pressed, any one of us, to defend the notion of 41 police departments in Westchester. So the fact that we now have broken a logjam and can allow further consolidation only where it makes sense. Again, this doesn't force the commissioner's hand, it doesn't force the administration's hand, it just removes a roadblock should they want to pursue that avenue. It certainly makes sense for the taxpayers, certainly makes sense from a public safety standpoint. So again, thanks and congratulations to Legislator Borgia, Legislator Ryan. I fully support this and hope our colleagues will as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harcum. Members on this item. I, too, would like to congratulate Chair Borgia on this particular item. She, of all of us here, had the experience in dealing with this particular item, and it was a challenging road that, for those of us that remember back in 2010 that were on the board at that time, in public safety, we did ask for what we lovingly called a roadmap, right, to be able to do this with shared services for the county as regional government, to be able to show how we can have that playbook without it being a one-off transaction, where every transaction had to be individually negotiated, and not everyone having the same ability to get things across the line, and certainly not the same tenacity as then Supervisor and now Legislator Borgia that had to do. For those of you that remember, we were here, I think Mr. Plunkett and I, along with Mr. Mooney and Commissioner Longworth, were on the telephone on New Year's Eve when we all were closed, and Legislator Borgia is smiling about that, and for all the things again that we don't hear about, I'll always lovingly like to say you only see the things that people want to see, but they don't realize that we spent a lot of times, and our former colleague, by the way, who was on the police board, who was unceremoniously dropped off that board, but that's a different issue. Richard Wishney was on the phone trying to get this thing across the line. Congratulations to you, Chair Borgia and Mr. Ryan, Chair Ryan, for all their hard work in this, especially in this emergency services, and trying to have that blueprint. And we did ask, Ms. Perez, just so you know, we did ask Mr. Rogowski prior to this to have that roadmap, and he was not as open to it as you are, and had gotten across the line. So again, thank you for all the folks that are doing this. Members, without objection, we'll take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 5676 from the Committee on Appointments is the appointment of Patricia Perugini as a voting director to the Governing Board of the Westchester County Healthcare Corporation for a term to expire April 27, 2014.
Ms. Shimsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Committee on Appointments interviewed Ms. Perugini at its regularly scheduled meeting last week. We found her experience both as a former employee of the hospital and a former consumer of the hospital services a good compliment for the board. Her willingness to work with the other members of the board was also very heartfelt, and I think she will be a useful member of the organization, and I therefore move her approval here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Shimsky. Members on this item, unless there's objection, members, we'll take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. Oh.
Right.
So ordered.
Approved 17-0.
Members, hold on 1 second, please. All right. All right, members, the question, just so you know what is going on, there is a question on the public hearing resolution that is next for the post-storm infrastructure reconstruction and rehabilitation. The question is on timing, and we're looking at the calendar to try to reconcile some of the items on this particular scenario. I do not believe that we would have an issue, although normally we try not to have public hearings except for the college budget in the daytime, right? So what that would mean in this particular case is that this particular item would need to go on not the next board meeting agenda, but it would have to go on the December 10th agenda. So that would be during the day. So, because it has to be published in the paper, and we don't have enough time to do the publishing for those two particular resolutions at this particular point in time. So, with that being said, unless there's objection, members, I will ask Ms. Myers to set this particular public hearing, and we'll do it at 10 a.m. on the we don't need to. We can do it at 10. We can call it at 10, and then we'll work around. Yes. So, so Ms. Myers on the post-storm infrastructure reconstruction rehabilitation. Madam Clerk, if you could read the item.
5663 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget Appropriations is a resolution to set a public hearing on proposed capital project SW005, post-storm infrastructure reconstruction and rehabilitation to reconstruct, make repairs to, and rehabilitate various county sewer district infrastructures following Superstorm Sandy with costs thereof to be apportioned amongst the county sanitary sewer districts.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is a system-wide capital budget amendment that
We're just setting a public hearing.
we're setting a public, exactly. But I thought I would just say what it's for. The public hearing will be for the proposed capital budget amendment for $1,850,000, and this is for system-wide damage from the Superstorm Sandy to a variety of wastewater treatment plants and pump stations throughout the county. And again, we would like to set this, please, for December 10th at 10 a.m.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Unless there's objections, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the setting of the public hearing, which would be December 10th at 10 a.m. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Item 5666 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations is a resolution to set a public hearing on a proposed capital project SY043, Yonkers Joint Wastewater Treatment Plant post-storm reconstruction and rehabilitation to reconstruct, make repairs to, and rehabilitate the Yonkers Joint Wastewater Treatment Plant following Superstorm Sandy with costs thereof to be apportioned amongst the sewer districts.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is calling for a public hearing that would be, we're recommending that it be held on December 10th at 10 o'clock in the morning. And this is to discuss the proposed capital budget amendment for $9,950,000 in bonds to try to put back what Superstorm Sandy tore asunder at the Yonkers wastewater treatment plant recently. So moved for the public hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Unless there's objection, and that would be at December 10th at 10 a.m. Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the setting of the public hearing. So ordered.
Approved 17-0. Motions, resolutions, call of the districts.
Madam Clerk, Ms. Breckman. Frank Regan. Thank you, Ms. Breckman. Other members? Mr. Gelfarb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to say the name of Leonardo Serena, S-I-R-E-N-A.
Thank you, Mr. Gelfarb. Other members? 2 points really quickly, members. Mr. Mazzano brought up earlier a point of order regarding the notice from the county executive regarding the veto message. We just want to clarify for you that there are two different items on that. It actually would not even need to be noticed in the board at all for an act. So under section 107.71, it is actually part of the ratification process of an act that it was disapproved by the county executive, and we could reconsider it. If we reconsider it, it certainly would be on the agenda as a special order from the chair to be able to reconsider it. But there is no requirement in our county charter regarding an act. With a local law, that has to be noticed at the next available board meeting, and that would have to be noticed, and then we have 30 days after that notice to take action upon that local law should it require reconsideration by the board, and we could not reconsider it the first night it's introduced, right? Just so we have that for clarity. The second point, again in public comment, as we said last week, we heard the same misinformation. Again, there is no legislation in front of the Board of Legislators as far as the West Health property is concerned. That particular item was received and filed by a vote of this board. So there is no legislation to do that. Now, the other person was at least wise enough to suggest, should we receive a modified piece of legislation from the county executive, it certainly would have an opportunity to be reviewed again. But at this particular point in time, there is nothing to be in front of the legislature. And as far as the Site D process is concerned, I know that Mr. Crane and members of our legislative staff are working with esteemed members in the law department trying to put together a piece of legislation that could be in front of the board for its consideration. But we remind everyone again, while we all have a feeling for the sale property, or what's also known as Ferncliff, because of what outstanding work they do with our developmentally disabled group of individuals, it is not a county operation, it is a private operation. And we need to kind of have that in the back of our mind. And right now, our property as it stands at West Help, and as you know, several legislators have noted in their visits, is under the control of the town of Greenburgh, but it is under a lease. And when we gave them the property, it was inhabited. So if there's a problem, members, we're really going to have to do some research and review that, because if there are mold and damages to our property, I would expect our county attorney would be following up on that to make sure that our property is being maintained in a way that would be structurally sound and protecting the assets of Westchester County. Members, we all can please rise and observe a moment of silence for those mentioned in the memorial resolutions. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I'd move that we adjourn, and we would reconvene on December 3rd at 7 p.m.
On the motion of Mr. Harcum, the board stands adjourned.